The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Meridian cast perfect light across our table, highlighting the disdain on my sister Victoria's face. She'd chosen this restaurant specifically, the most exclusive dining room in the city's premier luxury hotel, to make a point. Several points, actually. Sarah, are you sure you can afford to split the bill evenly? Victoria asked, her voice dripping with concern that fooled no one. I know things have been tight for you lately. I set down my water glass carefully. I'm fine, Victoria. Thank you for your concern. It's just that Mom mentioned you're still renting that tiny apartment in Riverside, she continued, addressing the entire table now. My parents, my brother Marcus, his wife Jennifer, and Victoria's husband David all turned to look at me. At your age, Sarah. Still renting. Mom shifted uncomfortably. Victoria, it's my birthday. Can we just... I'm only trying to help, Victoria interrupted, her hand finding Mom's across the table. Family looks out for each other. That's why David and I bought Mom and Dad that timeshare in Aspen. Real property. Real investment. David nodded, his arm draped possessively across the back of Victoria's chair. It's about building wealth, Sarah. Not throwing money away on rent every month. I took another bite of my salmon. It was perfectly cooked. Chef Antoine knew exactly what he was doing. I'd hired him away from a Michelin-starred restaurant in Paris 3 years ago. Sarah works in... what is it again? Jennifer asked, her tone suggesting she'd forgotten something utterly forgettable. Some kind of consulting? Property consulting, I said simply. Marcus laughed. Property consulting. That's a creative way to say real estate agent, isn't it? I work with property management, I clarified, not bothering to correct the assumption. Let them think what they wanted. Well, there's honest work in that, Dad said, though his tone suggested he thought it barely qualified. Someone has to show apartments to people who actually buy them. Victoria leaned forward, her designer bracelet, her anniversary gift from David, catching the light. Speaking of which, Sarah, have you given any thought to what we discussed? About moving back home for a while? Just until you get on your feet properly. I'm on my feet just fine. Are you, though? Victoria's concern was so practiced it almost looked genuine. Mom mentioned you drive a 10-year-old Honda. And you haven't taken a real vacation in... how long? I've been busy with work. Busy showing studio apartments in questionable neighborhoods, Marcus added. That's not the same as actually being successful, sis. The waiter approached with dessert menus and Victoria waved him away. We'll order the birthday cake we brought. It's from that bakery on Fifth Avenue. $300, but Mom's worth it. $300, Jennifer echoed, making sure I heard the price. Of course we'll split the cost of the cake evenly too, Victoria said, looking directly at me. That's about $50 each. Plus your share of dinner. Your portion should be around $230. Can you manage that, Sarah? If not, David and I can cover you. We don't mind helping out family. I smiled. I can manage. It's just that $280 total is probably significant for your budget, Victoria pressed. There's no shame in accepting help. Mom's face was flushed. Girls, please. Can we just enjoy? We are enjoying, Victoria said brightly. I just want to make sure Sarah isn't struggling silently. That's what big sisters are for. She turned to me, her expression shifting to something resembling pity. You know, Sarah, the firm David works for is hiring administrative assistants. It's entry-level, but it's stable. Benefits, regular paycheck, opportunity for advancement. I could put in a word. I'm not looking for administrative work. Pride, Dad muttered into his wine glass. That's always been your problem, Sarah. I'm just saying, Victoria continued, at 32, you should be thinking about your future. Retirement accounts. Property ownership. Building something real. Not just scraping by month to month showing apartments to other people. Marcus signaled the waiter. Another bottle of the Chateau Margaux. The 2015 if you have it. That's $400 a bottle, Jennifer whispered to me loudly enough for everyone to hear. But it's a special occasion. Sarah might prefer something more modest, Victoria suggested. No judgment. We all have different budgets. The Margaux is fine, I said. Victoria's eyebrows rose. Are you sure? Your share of that bottle alone would be about $65. On top of everything else. I'm sure. She exchanged a look with Marcus. That look I'd seen my entire life. The one that said they were humoring their little sister who didn't quite understand how the real world worked. Dad cleared his throat. Sarah, your mother and I have been discussing something. About your grandmother's jewelry. My hand stilled on my fork. The pieces are valuable, he continued. Heirlooms. And we've decided they should go to Victoria and Jennifer. They have homes to display them properly, safe deposit boxes at reputable banks. You understand. Those were supposed to be divided between all of us, I said quietly. That was before we understood everyone's circumstances, Mom said, not meeting my eyes. Victoria has that beautiful display case in her foyer. The jewelry will be appreciated there. Protected. Protected from what? From being sold off to pay rent, Marcus said bluntly. Let's be honest, Sarah. You're one bad month away from financial trouble. Grandma's jewelry is too valuable to risk. Victoria reached across to pat my hand. When you get more established, we can discuss it again. Think of this as us keeping the jewelry safe for the whole family. The waiter returned with the wine, making a show of presenting the label to Marcus. The 2015 Chateau Margaux, sir. Excellent choice. As he poured, Victoria continued her campaign. You know what might really help you, Sarah? If you stop trying to keep up appearances. There's no shame in admitting you're at a different life stage than the rest of us. David and I have the penthouse in Harbor Tower. Marcus and Jennifer just bought that colonial in Westchester. Mom and Dad have their house paid off plus the timeshare. And you? Have a rental in Riverside, I finished. Exactly. And that's okay. Not everyone can be successful in the same way. Some people are late bloomers. Some people just find their level. David nodded sagely. The sooner you accept where you are, the sooner you can make realistic plans. Maybe find a nice roommate to split costs. Victoria mentioned you live alone. That's really not financially prudent at your income level. My income level, I repeated. Well, whatever real estate agents make from commission, he said dismissively. It can't be much, especially in the rental market. Those commissions are tiny. Jennifer leaned in conspiratorially. I have a friend who's looking for a roommate. She's 55, very clean, doesn't make much noise. She'd probably only ask for $500 or $600 a month in rent from you. It would help so much with your expenses. You want me to rent my apartment to a 55-year-old roommate? Share your rental, Jennifer corrected. And yes, pride won't pay your bills, Sarah. The sommelier approached our table, but before he could speak, Victoria held up her hand. We're fine for now, thank you. He hesitated, his eyes finding mine for just a moment. I gave him a subtle shake of my head and he retreated. See, that's another thing, Victoria said, having noticed the exchange. You can't just wave away waiters like you're someone important. These people work for tips, Sarah. They need to do their jobs. I wasn't. You were dismissive, she insisted. That's exactly the kind of behavior that comes from insecurity. You can't afford to eat places like this regularly, so when you do, you overcompensate. You try to act like you belong. Marcus swirled his wine. Remember when we were kids and Sarah used to pretend she owned that playground near our house? She'd tell other kids they needed her permission to use the slide. Everyone laughed except Mom, who at least had the grace to look uncomfortable. I was 7, I said. But the pattern was already there. Victoria said, her psychology degree from 15 years ago apparently qualifying her to psychoanalyze me. Delusions of authority. Pretending to have power you don't actually possess. It's a coping mechanism for feeling inadequate. I don't feel inadequate. Of course you don't think you do, she said kindly. That's how defense mechanisms work. The waiter brought Mom's birthday cake, an elaborate creation with gold leaf and sugar flowers. Everyone sang, Mom blew out the candles, and Victoria made sure to photograph everything from multiple angles for her social media. This is the life Mom deserves, Victoria announced. Luxury. Quality. The best of everything. That's why we chose the Grand Meridian for tonight. This hotel represents excellence. Did you know their suites start at $1,500 a night? Their penthouse suite is $12,000. $12,000 a night, Jennifer echoed dutifully. Could you imagine? Victoria laughed, looking at me. Spending your entire month's rent on a single night in a hotel room? I couldn't, I agreed. That's why people like us. She gestured around the table, carefully excluding me. Work hard and make smart investments. So we can enjoy places like this. While people at your level. She trailed off meaningfully. Should stick to budget hotels? I offered. Exactly. He seemed pleased I understood. There's no point in you saving up for one fancy dinner when you could be putting that money towards something practical. A better used car maybe. Or furniture that isn't from IKEA. David flagged down a passing waiter. Excuse me, could you tell us about your hotel's membership program? I've been thinking about joining. The waiter, young and clearly new, brightened. Of course, sir. The Grand Meridian Club offers exclusive benefits. Priority reservations, complimentary upgrades when available, access to our executive lounge, 15% off all dining and spa services. Cost. The annual membership is $25,000, sir. Victoria gasped theatrically. $25,000. David, that's actually reasonable for what you get. We should do it. Consider it done, David said, pulling out his platinum credit card. Sign us up. The waiter looked uncertainly at the card. I'll need to have our membership coordinator process this, sir. If you could give me just a moment. Of course, David said magnanimously. Take your time. We're celebrating here. My mother-in-law's birthday at the Grand Meridian. He said the hotel's name like it was conferring status just to be here. After the waiter left, Victoria turned to me. Sarah, you're being awfully quiet. Are you feeling okay? Not overwhelmed by all this? I'm fine. It's just that places like this can be intimidating when you're not used to them, she said. All the formality, the expense, the expectations. I remember my first time at a luxury hotel. I was so nervous I could barely speak to the staff. When was that? I asked. Oh, years ago. Before I met David. I was still figuring out my place in the world, much like you are now. And now you've figured it out? Well, yes, she said, seemingly oblivious to any sarcasm. I married well, invested wisely, built a life of quality. That's the path, Sarah. Find a successful man who can provide stability. Your looks are fading, but you're not hopeless yet. If you lost some weight, updated your wardrobe, maybe got some professional highlights in your hair. Victoria, Mom said weakly. I'm helping, Victoria insisted. Someone needs to give Sarah honest advice. She's clearly not making good decisions on her own. Marcus stood to refill his wine glass from the new bottle. The real question is, how are you going to pay for your share of tonight, Sarah? Did you bring enough cash, or are you going to make us wait while you run to an ATM? I have my card. A debit card, I assume? Jennifer asked. Just make sure you have enough in your account. The overdraft fees are brutal. I'm aware. Are you sure you don't want us to just cover you? Victoria pressed. Seriously, Sarah, I know you're proud, but $345 is a lot of money for someone in your position. With the wine, cake, your entree, appetizers, let us treat you. Early Christmas present. I can pay my share. But should you? Dad asked. Your mother and I worry about you, Sarah. You're living paycheck to paycheck, one emergency away from disaster. Maybe it's time to swallow your pride and accept that you need help. I don't need help. Victoria sighed dramatically. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Denial. Sarah, listen to me as your older sister who only wants what's best for you. You're not doing well. Your life is not where it should be at your age. And instead of accepting help from people who love you, you're clinging to this fantasy that everything is fine. Everything is fine. You drive a 10-year-old car. Victoria nearly shouted. You live in a rental apartment in a mediocre neighborhood. You work as a real estate agent showing apartments for rental commissions. Your entire life is fine, the way fast food is fine, when you're hungry but can't afford a real restaurant. The tables around us had gone quiet. Other diners were pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. Victoria, lower your voice, Mom hissed. No, Victoria said. No, I'm done tiptoeing around Sarah's feelings. She needs to hear the truth. Sarah, you are failing at life. You're 32 years old with nothing to show for it. No property, no husband, no prospects, no savings we can see. You're a cautionary tale. You're what happens when someone has potential but wastes it through poor decisions and stubborn pride. The silence at our table was deafening. Even Marcus looked uncomfortable. Are you finished? I asked calmly. I'm trying to help you, Victoria said, her eyes actually welling with tears. Why can't you see that? Why can't you just accept that you need us? Before I could respond, I saw Richard Chin, the Grand Meridian's general manager, approaching our table. His expression was professionally neutral, but I caught the slight tension around his eyes. Behind him, the young waiter from earlier looked panicked. "Good evening," Richard said smoothly. "I hope you're all enjoying your meal." "We are," David said importantly. "In fact, we were just discussing your membership program. Very impressive establishment you have here." "Thank you, sir. However, I'm afraid I need to address a small matter." His eyes found mine. "Ms. Williams, I apologize for the interruption, but we have a situation that requires your immediate attention. There's been an incident with the penthouse suite. A water leak in the unit above has caused some damage. My staff has contained it, but as owner, you should be informed." The word hung in the air like a bomb. "Owner." Victoria's fork clattered against her plate. Marcus choked on his wine. David's mouth fell open. Jennifer gasped. Mom and Dad froze completely. "Owner." Victoria whispered. Richard's expression didn't change. "Yes, ma'am. I wouldn't normally interrupt Ms. Williams during a private dinner, but given the value of the suite and the extent of the damage, I thought she should be informed immediately. The repair estimates are already being prepared." "There must be some mistake," David said weakly. "Sarah is. She's a real estate agent." "Ms. Williams is the owner of the Grand Meridian," Richard said calmly. "She has been for 4 years. I'm her general manager." He turned back to me. "Again, my apologies for the interruption. Shall I handle the situation, or would you like to review the damage personally?" "Handle it," I said quietly. "Send me the full report and estimates tonight." "Of course. And..." He paused delicately, his eyes flickering to my family. "The gentleman was inquiring about membership. Should I have that processed?" I looked at David, whose platinum card was still lying on the table. At Victoria, whose face had gone from red to white. At Marcus, who looked like he might be sick. At my parents, who were staring at me like they'd never seen me before. "Actually, Richard," I said slowly, "I believe my brother-in-law was very enthusiastic about joining. Quite insistent, in fact. But given the circumstances, I think we should review our membership policies. Specifically, our policy regarding family members of the ownership." "Of course, Ms. Williams. I'll have our membership coordinator prepare the relevant documentation for your review." "Should I?" He hesitated meaningfully. "Should I also review the current list of complimentary memberships we've extended? I believe there may be some updates needed." Victoria made a sound like a wounded animal. "Wait," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "Sarah, you own this hotel?" "I own the Grand Meridian," I confirmed. "And 3 other luxury properties in the city. Plus the management company that oversees 12 additional hotels across the country. Property consulting, like I said." But how?" Jennifer stammered. "I started with one distressed property 11 years ago," I explained calmly. "Fixed it up, sold it for profit, reinvested. Built a portfolio. Eventually moved into luxury hospitality. It's been quite successful." "How successful?" Dad asked, his voice barely audible. Richard smiled slightly. "The Grand Meridian alone generates approximately $43 million in annual revenue. Ms. Williams's total portfolio is valued at somewhere in the vicinity of $280 million. Though I shouldn't speak to specifics without her permission." $280 million, Mom breathed. "Though that's a conservative estimate," Richard added. "The valuation fluctuates based on market conditions." Victoria was shaking her head. No, this is... You drive a Honda. You live in Riverside. I drive a 2015 Honda because it's reliable and I don't care about impressing people," I said. "I live in Riverside because I own the entire building. It's a 12-unit property that I use as a test facility for new property management systems. I live in one unit and monitor the others." "The jewelry," Dad said suddenly. "We told you that you're giving Grandma's jewelry to Victoria and Jennifer because they have safe places for it." "Yes, I heard." "That's fine. Keep it. I have safety deposit boxes at 3 different banks containing about $4 million in various valuables and emergency assets. Grandma's jewelry is sentimental, but I'll survive without it." $4 million, Marcus echoed faintly. Richard glanced at his watch. Ms. Williams, I should attend to the penthouse situation. Unless you need me to stay. No, go ahead. Handle it. He nodded and turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and sir. He looked at David. Regarding the membership application, I'm afraid our membership committee will need to review all applications more carefully going forward. Can take several weeks. We'll be in touch. After he left, the silence at our table was absolute. Around us, other diners were definitely not pretending anymore. They were openly staring. How long? Victoria finally asked, her voice trembling. How long have you been? How long have you owned this place? 4 years. I bought it after the previous owner ran into financial trouble. Got it for $63 million, well below market value. It's worth about $140 million now. And you let us. She couldn't finish. Let you what? Criticize my car? My apartment? My job? Tell me I need to find a roommate and dye my hair and lose weight and marry someone successful because I clearly couldn't be successful myself. I kept my voice level. Yes, I let you do all of that. Because I wanted to see how long it would take before one of you asked me how I was actually doing. Really asked. Really cared. That's not fair, Jennifer protested weakly. Isn't it? Victoria, how many times have you invited me to family dinners in the last year? She said nothing. 12 times. And at every single one, you've made some comment about my finances, my choices, my life. You've offered to help me find jobs, roommates, cheaper apartments. You've suggested I move back home. You've told me I'm wasting my life. And not once, not one single time, did you ask me if I was actually happy, if I was actually successful, if I actually needed anything. You never said anything, Marcus protested. I shouldn't have to. You're my family. You should have looked beyond your assumptions and seen me. Actually seen me. Mom's hands were shaking. Sarah, sweetheart, we didn't know. You didn't want to know. It was more comfortable to believe I was failing. To believe you all were succeeding and I wasn't. It made you feel better about yourselves. That's not, Dad started. Isn't it? Dad, you told me tonight that pride was my problem. That I needed to accept my place. What place did you think that was, exactly? He couldn't answer. I'll tell you what my place is, I said quietly. I'm one of the youngest self-made hospitality moguls in the country. Forbes did a feature on me last year. I'm sure none of you saw it since you'd already decided I was barely scraping by. I sit on the board of 3 charitable foundations. I employ over 800 people across my properties. I own more real estate than everyone at this table combined. And I did it all myself without family money, without a husband to provide stability, without compromising who I am or what I believe in. The waiter appeared with our check, nervously setting it in the middle of the table. Victoria had gone completely silent, tears running down her face. Marcus was staring at the tablecloth. Jennifer looked like she wanted to disappear. My parents just looked old suddenly and very small. Your shares of tonight's dinner, I said, pulling out my Black American Express card, the Centurion card that required you to spend at least $250,000 annually. Victoria, you were very concerned about me paying $345. Would you like to know how much I spent on Mom's actual birthday present? What present? Mom whispered. The timeshare Victoria and David bought you in Aspen? I own the building. The whole building. 12 units. I'm giving you the deed to one of them. It's yours free and clear. Worth about $1.2 million. Happy birthday. Mom started crying. But let's talk about tonight's bill, I continued. $345 for my share. Dinner for 7 at my own hotel where I employ every person who served us tonight, who cooked our food, who poured our wine, who will clean this table after we leave. Honestly, the whole dinner is complimentary, but we can split the bill if that's what you prefer. I place my card on the check. Actually, no. This one's on me. All of it. Including the $400 bottles of wine Marcus ordered. Including the $300 cake. Including the membership David was so eager to purchase. Though I'm afraid that particular offer might be rescinded. Sarah, Victoria started. I'm not finished, I said, my voice still calm but with an edge now. Richard mentioned complimentary memberships. Would you like to know who currently holds those? Mom and Dad have had them since I bought this hotel 4 years ago. Full access to everything, complimentary suite upgrades, spa services, dining, all of it. I gave it to them thinking they'd use it, maybe ask me about it, maybe realize their daughter wasn't actually failing at life. Dad's face crumpled. We never used it. We thought it was some kind of promotional thing. We didn't realize that it came from me. Of course you didn't. Because you'd already decided what my life looked like. I stood up. Dinner is paid for. The hotel staff will bring your cars around whenever you're ready to leave. Drive safely. Where are you going? Mom asked. I have a water leak to assess. I'm the owner, remember? These things require my attention. Sarah, please, Victoria said, her voice breaking. Please, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was horrible to you. I was so horrible and I'm so sorry. I looked at her. Really looked at her. The designer clothes, the expensive jewelry, the carefully constructed image of success. And underneath it all I saw what I'd missed before, fear. She'd been afraid all along that she wasn't enough, wasn't successful enough, wasn't special enough. And she dealt with that fear by deciding I was beneath her. You were horrible, I agreed. All of you were. But here's the thing, Victoria. I don't need your apology. I don't need anything from any of you. I never did. I have everything I need, everything I built, everything I earned. What I don't have is a family that sees me for who I actually am. We see you now, Marcus said desperately. Now that you know about the money, you mean. Now that you know about the hotels and the portfolio and the Forbes article. But you didn't see me an hour ago. You didn't see me last month or last year or 4 years ago when I bought this place. You saw what you wanted to see. What was convenient to see. I picked up my purse. I need to go. Richard will ensure your membership coordinator contacts you about returning your complimentary access cards. Mom, Dad, yours are still active. Use them or don't, it's your choice. But going forward, family dinners at my properties might be complicated. You can't just leave, Jennifer said, finding her voice. We're your family. You're people who share my DNA, I corrected. Family is supposed to support you. Believe in you. See the best in you. You all saw what you wanted to see. Someone you could look down on, someone who made you feel better about your own choices. That's not family. That's just cruelty with a biological excuse. I walked away from the table, through the restaurant, past the other diners who were definitely not pretending anymore. In the lobby, Richard was waiting. The penthouse? I asked. Being handled. I'm sorry about the timing, but I thought you should know. You did the right thing. I paused. And thank you for the membership committee comment. That was inspired. He smiled slightly. I've worked for you for 4 years, Ms. Williams. I know how you handle people who underestimate you. Cancel the complimentary memberships for everyone except my parents. Already done. I took the liberty as soon as I understood the situation at your table. You're worth every penny I pay you, Richard. Speaking of which, he said carefully, should I anticipate any fallout from this evening? Probably. They might try to make a scene, demand to speak to the owner, which would be awkward for them. They might leave negative reviews online about being mistreated, which will be interesting since I own the hotel. They might tell people I'm lying about owning this place, which will make them look foolish when those people can easily verify the truth. And if they contact you directly? They have my number. They've always had my number. The question is whether they'll use it to apologize or to demand explanations. I looked back toward the restaurant. I'm betting on demands. Your family is complicated. My family is what happens when people spend so much time creating an image of success that they forget to notice when someone actually achieves it. I headed toward the elevator. I'll be in the penthouse if you need me. Ms. Williams. Richard called after me. For what it's worth, you handled that with remarkable grace. Grace is easy when you have nothing to prove, I said. The hard part is remembering that before situations like tonight force you to prove it anyway. The elevator doors closed and I rode up to assess the water damage in a $12,000 night suite that I owned, in a hotel that bore my name on the deed, in a life that I'd built brick by brick while my family decided I was barely scraping by. My phone started buzzing before I reached the top floor. Text messages flooding in. Victoria, please call me. I'm so sorry. I love you. Marcus, Sarah, we need to talk. This is insane. Why didn't you tell us? Jennifer, I feel terrible. Can we please start over? Dad, your mother is very upset. Call us. I turned my phone off and stepped out into the hallway where my maintenance team was already working on the damaged suite. Because this was my hotel. My property. My empire. And I'd built it while they told me to find a roommate. The water damage was minimal, a pipe issue that my team had already mostly resolved. I spent 20 minutes reviewing the situation, approving repairs, checking on the guests who'd been relocated from the affected suite. Professional. Competent. In control. Everything they'd assumed I wasn't. When I finally got home to my apartment in Riverside, my building in Riverside, my investment property in Riverside, it was after midnight. I poured myself a glass of wine, stood by the window looking out at the city lights, and thought about everything that had happened. Tomorrow they'd call again. They'd want to meet, to talk, to explain. Victoria would cry. Marcus would get defensive. Mom and Dad would try to make me understand that they'd only wanted what was best for me. And maybe, eventually, we'd find some kind of equilibrium. Maybe they'd learn to see me as I actually was. Maybe I'd learn to forgive them for years of dismissal disguised as concern. But tonight, right now, I was content with the silence. Content with my 10-year-old Honda in the parking lot below. Content with my rental apartment that I owned along with the 11 others in this building. Content with the empire I'd built while they worried about my budget. I'd always known who I was. Now they did too. And that, more than anything else, was worth more than all $280 million in my portfolio. Though I had to admit, the look on Victoria's face when Richard called me owner was pretty priceless too.